All right, guys, another great episode today. LA has been on a couple of times before this. I do enjoy hearing his theories and perspectives, although I may not agree with everything. Just like with many of my guests, I think it's important to share as many perspectives as possible. I definitely do not agree with his stance on Israel and the Iran war, but we can still agree to disagree. I didn't press him about it. It was the end of the discussion. We only had a few minutes left. He had a hard stop in an hour, and based on what he was saying, there's probably no changing perspectives for him anyway. Overall, a super fun episode. I hope you guys enjoy this discussion with L.A. Marzulli.
I think it's just going to get weirder and weirder and weirder, and finally it's going to be so weird that people are going to have to talk about how weird it is. Eventually people are going to say, what the hell is going on? It's not enough to say it's nuts. You have to explain why it's so nuts. The invention of artificial life, the cloning of human beings, possible contact with extraterrestrials, the systems which are in place to keep the world sane are utterly inadequate to the forces that have been unleashed.
Welcome back to Forbidden Knowledge News. I'm your host, Chris Matthew. Today my guest is L.A. Marzulli. Check out my films. Occult Louisiana is on Tubi. Doors of Perception is on Amazon Prime. We are booking guests for May. If you have suggestions or you'd like to be a guest, email me forbiddenknowledgenews@gmail.com. Today I want to welcome back to the show L.A. Marzulli. He is an author, lecturer, and filmmaker. He has penned 14 books, including the Nephilim trilogy. L.A., welcome back. How you doing?
I'm doing good. Thanks for having me on. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much for coming on. And so much has happened since we last spoke, including the ongoing slow drip UFO disclosure that has been coming out from our own government, military, and intelligence officials. But depending on who you ask, even within our government, some would say they're physical beings traveling the stars from different planets, but others will tell you that they are straight up demons. Even J.D. Vance recently said he believes they're demons, whatever that may be worth. But the work you've done for many years now explores the possibilities that they are demonic entities, which we're going to discuss today. I'd like to also get your thoughts on the biblical implications of recent events, if we have time. Before we get to any of that, it's been a while since you've been on. Remind the audience just a bit about yourself and let them know how they can find out more.
Yeah, I'm L.A. Marzulli. We have 34 films in our catalog. I've written 15 books. I'm working on number 16. I'm actually working on number 34, On the Trail of a Nephilim, number 9. So there's a corpus of work, lamarzulli.com. We've got an hour together. We'll sort of scratch the surface. If you want to dig deeper, if you want into the Nephilim, there are 8 films on that. There are books, On the Trail of a Nephilim. We have a 10-box DVD set that my business partner, Gil Zimmerman, and I created, UFO Disclosure. We're the only Christian ministry I'm aware of that has 10 films on the whole UFO subject. So we actually went to the debris field in Roswell, and there's the debris right there. It was buried 8 inches in the soil, and we dug that up. We know it's an aluminum alloy, but we're not sure what it is. More testing needs to be done, and we're involved in that. So that just, gives you a little bit about me. We are the only team ever that I'm aware of to take DNA samples from the Paraka skulls. That is in On the Trail of a Nephilim number 6, I believe, the complete DNA results. So there's a corpus of work there that, if you're at all interested, it takes time.
Excellent. We'll have links to your site
Thank you.
accessible in the description. You heard me mention in the intro about the disclosure coming from our own government and military. When we look at it from that angle, how much do you think our military, intelligence, and government really truly know about the true nature of this phenomena?
Well, I think there's a group inside the government that has been holding all this under wraps. Take control of a narrative. We've got missing scientists. We've got, people that worked at Wright-Patterson for 30 years, the general that just goes missing, right?
Yeah.
It's getting really weird. It's getting really weird. And Congress continues its dog and pony show because, in my opinion, it's exactly what it is. To dog, oh look, we've got this UFO on film, and there it is, and it's going like this. It's and then it just goes whoop, and it's gone. Okay, so we've seen that a gazillion times. This is why on our film, I'll show it to you right here. That's the Kumburgaz UFO right there.
Mm-hmm.
And we've got, for this from a late Dr. Roger Lear, hours of footage. And this became the cover because you can see the inhabitants right inside, right there. You can see the grays right there. And you can see the heat signature. And this thing sat in Turkey over Lake Kumburgaz, in Turkey for hours, And we broke the story on it. It's in our films. And I've sat down with Dr. Roger Lear. He's passed away now a number of years ago. And he said it's probably the best UFO footage that he's ever seen. And I agree. And, so these little things that they're showing in Congress, well, they should have the Kumburgaz UFO footage, which, again, my late business partner who passed away a few years ago, 2019. So it's, 6 years, unbelievable, 6, 7 years.
Mm-hmm.
And Gil Zimmerman and I teamed up, and that we did all the shows on UFOs. But Richard had the original film from Dr. Roger Lear and went through it frame by frame. And so, people go, oh, it's a hoax. Excuse me, you just shut your pie hole. You have no idea what you're talking about. We had the original film. We broke the story in our Watchers film. We did. We broke the story on it. And I reused that in our 10-box DVD set. So the whole UFO phenomenon is real, burgeoning, not going away. Congress is talking about it. For the most part, it's a dog and pony show. Tim Burkett, one of the congressmen that's out there, has stated on the record, if you saw what I have seen, the public would be up all night, something like that. And he's right. Trump is sort of kept on the outside, just like everybody else. Recently, Obama stated aliens are real, and Trump immediately smacked them down. He had no right in saying that. In my book, Rungs of Disclosure, where there's 18 rungs in the book, we're up to rung number 26, 27. So if you're interested in that, it's all free. You can go to rungsofdisclosure.com and you can see the rungs. It's like a ladder going up. The first rung, 2017 with Commander David Fravor, who says this tic-tac shaped object hovering with no rotor wash over the Pacific. How does that work? 50 miles in 2 seconds? If you were inside that ship, you'd be crushed to death. But and I got this from Bob Lazar, because the ship is moving and there's a gravity wave that's bending space and time. This is why no one gets pushed up against the wall and basically turned into just a bunch of mush. So, Congress knows some things, but the fact that whistleblowers are being threatened, going missing. I mean, Lou Elizondo had that motorcycle accident, a week ago, not even.
Mm-hmm.
And I find that very curious, very curious. So I've been threatened. I was threatened for the Kandahar Giant, for my work on the Kandahar Giant. And
Wow.
I've gone public with this. I was threatened. The first threat was, oh, when they come to get you, arrest you, they'll find kiddie porn on your cell phone. The second one was what kind of car you drive. At the time, I was driving a 1990 Mercedes-Benz SL 500, which I restored. I bought it for like $8,000. It was a fun car. It burned in the fire, but I have a replacement, which is now a 2005. So instead of a 30-year-old car, I have a 21-year-old car, but it's a great car. And I'm driving this thing, and he threatened me. Well, does it have a computer? I said, yeah. And he goes, well, we could mess with the computer, you'd have an accident. So I'm driving up the canyon, all of a sudden I hear boonk, and there's no power steering. No power, it's gone. And I jam on the brakes and pull over. And by the way, here's my car. Right over here is a cliff.
Wow.
And I pulled into obviously I didn't go down over the cliff, but it was, if my wife had been driving that car, she wouldn't be here.
Oh.
And when the tow truck came, I showed him the belt. I said, "What do you make of this?" I just showed him the timing belt. That's all I did. Didn't say a word. He looks at it and he goes, "Do you have any enemies?" Just like that, because the belt had been cut.
Mm,
You could see that. And the
mm,
third one, the third threat from this guy from the deep state was, "Do you have any children?" I said, "Yeah, I have two daughters." Well, one of them could go missing and never be found again. That is how the game is played. That is how they hold your feet to the fire and make it so. And I looked at the guy and I said, "Yeah, I'm a worm. You can crush me. I totally get it. You guys have all the power." And then I threw the punchline on him. And not because I'm so brave or smart or spiritually aware. I just said, "You can do all that, but you can't do it unless the Most High God allows it." It was like a punch in the solar plexus. And the only reason why I go public with it, if I ever commit suicide, it wasn't me, especially if
mm.
I have two shots to the forehead, right?
Yeah.
you
It's
know,
pretty
so
incredible how many from the UFO community have been targeted. I believe it's because there's multi-layered implications behind this. First of all, the true nature of this. There's probably what we understand is free energy implications. But let's talk more about the evidence that these are not physical green men coming from different planets, but metaphysical non-human intelligences or demons. I know there's many layers to what's occurring with UFOs and aliens, alien abductions. So maybe we could start with what we see in the sky, orbs, lights, and craft. I know a lot of it's probably military, reverse engineered military, but how can we connect orbs and craft to alien abductions?
well, let's walk through. You mentioned demons several times, and people have a tendency, especially within church circles, they just lump it all into one big pile. Well, it doesn't work that way. You've got fallen angels. The Book of Enoch tells us specifically when the fallen angels come down and they mate with human women, the offspring are the Nephilim because it's a hybrid being. It's part angel, which is an immortal entity, and human women, but it has the progeny of fallen angels and human women are the Nephilim, but they are soulless. They're without souls. They have a spirit. The spirit is from their father's side of the equation, angelic, but fallen angelic, but they have no soul. Only God can give a soul. And so the disembodied spirits of the Nephilim that were destroyed in the flood become the demons that wander the earth. So demons are completely different than fallen angels. We know that when they come down, according to the book of Enoch, there's a quid pro quo. They give mankind technology, albeit it's primitive technology by our standards today, but nonetheless it's technology. The art of metal making. One angel shows the course of the moon, the 18 and a half year precession, lunar cycle, metonic cycle. Another angel shows how to kill the embryo in the womb. I'm not making this stuff up. If you were going to keep one book away from the people, man, you just don't read the book of Enoch, whatever you do, don't
Mm-hmm.
read it. You'll go to hell if you read the book of Enoch. Of course, you won't. That's why Jude quotes it. Jesus, I think, alludes to it. So the book of Enoch opens up the whole scriptures, and it all goes back to the Genesis 3:15 narrative. There is technology in the heavenly realms. There's technology. When the fallen angels come down, there's technology. They're showing mankind primitive, it's primitive technology, but it's technology. So these ships are highly advanced. They can jump through space time as we know it, which defies anything we have. When people are abducted, the laws of space time as we know it are suspended. It's a different physics. People are levitated off the bed. They are moved towards a window. They go through the window. How is that even possible? How by our physics, this is the transporter in Star Trek, but they've got it and they're doing it. So I use this as an example um, when I'm on shows or lecturing, and I will say this. So people say, well, there's really nothing in the Bible about this. Well, let's walk through that. So there's a man jailed in prison. He's in prison and he's chained to a wall. And with him are two or three other prisoners. An entity pops through the wall of a jail cell. The man's chains fall off of him. The entity didn't touch them. The chains just fall off of him. Then this entity opens the prison door. How is that possible? He doesn't have a key, but he manipulates space, time, matter, and energy. Prison door opens. They walk outside. All the guards are asleep. That never happens because, guards, you fall asleep at your post, you fall on your sword, right? Literally in the olden days, in modernity, if you're caught asleep, you're fired, right?
Yeah.
So they go out and the prison door opens by itself, and the man, the prisoner, and this entity walk, and all of a sudden the entity just disappears. So I go, what does that sound like to you? Does it sound like an alien abduction? And most people will raise their hand and say, yes, it does. I said, well, what you just read was in the biblical prophetic narrative, specifically in the book of Acts, and it's Peter's jailbreak. And it's a good angel that comes in, frees him, manipulates space, time, matter, and energy. All the guards are switched off, just like happens in an abduction. So the good guys and the bad guys can do the same thing because they're all angels. It's just that the fallen angels have rebelled. And the fallen angels may look like, although there's a word that my friend Russ Dizdar taught me when he was alive, metaschismaticide. They have the ability to shapeshift. They have the ability to appear as an angel of light. So what they may look like, this is conjecture on my part, is what we know as the tall whites, the ones that float like that, the tall whites. They could be what fallen angels look like in their natural state, but we just don't know. And it's like Jacques Vallée had a book, it was in my library, it burned in the fire, Messengers of Deception. And I mean, I read it when it came out years ago. And, what people don't understand is that these entities have a very nefarious agenda. And everything goes back to the Genesis 3:15 narrative, which is the seed of the dragon will be at war with the seed of the woman. The seed of the woman, the proto-evangelion, the Messiah, crushes the dragon heads. That's checkmate. But then why would Jesus warn us that it'll be like the days of Noah when he returns? And what differentiates the days of Noah are the Nephilim. So this is all, look, I've been banging this drum. I've written books, films, all this stuff for decades, literally for decades. It's 2026. The first book came out in 1998. So, it's almost 30 years ago, 28 years ago, the first book came out. So in 1990, so now we're looking at, a long, long time ago, folks, basically 40 years. I've been, almost 40 years, I've been involved in this. And before I became a Christian in 1980, I was immersed in all this stuff. I mean, I had seen a UFO as a 12-year-old. This thing hovered in the sky, looked just about that size, hovered in the sky. I was with three other boys, so the four of us, we all saw it. And this thing just sat there, and the sunlight was glinting off of it, just like I'm trying to make it happen here with the light. And then all of a sudden it just went whoosh, gone, just like that, in a blink of an eye. So I've seen four of them, and I don't go looking for them, by the way. So the phenomenon is real. And this will, why would it be that Paul writes in a book called Timothy? He's writing to a disciple of his, Timothy. And he says this in chapter 4, verse 1. The Spirit, the Holy Spirit, the Spirit of the living God, expressly states, in the latter days, some will depart from the faith, giving heed to seducing spirits and the doctrine of demons. Why would he even say something like that? Why would Jesus warn us that it'd be like the days of Noah when he returns? Why would Jesus admonish us that even the elect would be deceived, that men faint from fearfulness coming upon the earth? Why would Paul state that the dragon comes with all signs and lying wonders? So what's coming is not some wonderful, free energy type deal. What's coming will put the world into a global government and a global religious system, in my opinion.
You mentioned the possibility that these beings can shapeshift. You also talked about the Greys inhabiting the craft on the cover of the book. This is where a lot of people turn towards the physical alien narrative because there seems to be a lot of physicality within that kind of contact. But as far as your understanding and based on your research, what are we dealing with when we talk about grays? Because there's also reports of reptilian beings, mantid beings. Is it all shape shifting, or are we dealing with something else?
Some of it's shape shifting. The grays, in my opinion, and this is also Al Matthews, who was a former abductee, Emil Jurek, former abductee, Karen Wilkinson, former
Yeah.
abductee, and Angela Beckman. In our film, we have a whole film on abductions. All these people were taken, two men, two women. They were taken numerous times. Sperms taken from the men, ovum from the women. When I sat down with Karen Wilkinson, for instance, and we talk about the grays, she calls them meat suits because that's exactly what they are. And the grays, you see, a demon, and this is why this is so important. We talked about this already. Why it's so important to get our terms right from the get-go. A demon is the disembodied spirits of a Nephilim. A demon has to inhabit a person, an animal, or an object in order to manifest in our dimension. Well, the dragon, i.e., Satan, knows this, so he constructs a biological suit, a meat suit, an avatar. The demon can inhabit the gray. That's why there's no stomach, no, the mouth is just a slit. There's no reproduction, so because it doesn't need it. All he needs is something for this thing to inhabit, which the demon does, and now it can move. And the demons are the worker bees. The grays are the worker bees. So in my opinion, the grays are meat suits. They are avatars. The demons can inhabit them, and now they can move. And I realize, some people listen to this, and folks, we're in the deep end of the pool here, and I have an hour. I mean, that's it. I have an hour here, 34 films, 15 books. I'm working on number 16, which gets into some of this stuff. So it's a very deep, deep, deep conversation. And, I've been researching it, and I didn't start off doing this. I mean, I didn't sign up for this, believe me. I did not sign up for this. But, the Lord took me from full-time musician to full-time researcher, and here we are in 2020. I'm 75 years old, and I this is my third interview today, and I worked on my book, and now I've got to go over in my studio tomorrow and start working on number 34 film, and I'm already on the trail of a Nephilim, which might be the most important in the whole series. And I might put a bow on it. I'm thinking about actually putting a bow on this whole thing and stopping the on the trail, because I think that we've made our point, and unless something else happens, that will be it. But we don't know yet. We did the DNA testing on these guys, like I told you before. So we did the DNA testing on them right here. Nobody else has done this, to the best of my knowledge, and it shows that the mitochondrial DNA, the haplogroup, the origins come from the Baltics, the Middle East, Eastern European. It rewrites history, but the academics don't like that it rewrites history. I want to thank Brian Forrester and the late Senior Juan Navarro, who actually Senior Juan was the one that went out and got all these things from the Wakaros, the grave robbers, and then Brian put it on the map. And then we got a hold of Brian, but we did the DNA testing. Mondo Gonzalez, Richard Shaw filmed the whole thing. Chase Klotzy tagged and bagged everything. And we had 3 different labs. And naysayers go, it's all contaminated. It's not all contaminated. Go down and do your own samples. No, nobody does that. And since then, we've had another sample, which we've sequenced. And it shows not only is it 800 years old, because we did carbon-14 dating on it, it's about 96.5% human. So a Neanderthal is 99.5% human. The DNA almost matches. Chimps and gorillas, 98.5. Very, very close, isn't it? This particular item is 96.5. We don't have all the genome yet, but we've got 10% of it, and that's what it's showing. So it's very complex. The breeding program is going on, and everything hinges back and ties back to Genesis 3:15. Thank you, Gary Stearman, for teaching me this. And Genesis 3:15, you've got the garden, you've got the dragon over here, you've got Adam and Eve over here. And Adam and Eve, they know something drastic has happened. They're terrified. They're hiding from the Lord. And the Lord is the pre-incarnate Christ who comes into the garden. And they're hiding from him. Why? Because their DNA has changed. And they know something drastic has just taken place. They have sided with the dragon. The DNA has changed. And then the pre-incarnate Jesus goes to the dragon, your seed, your offspring, will be at war with the offspring of the woman. The offspring coming from the woman, the proto-evangelion, the Messiah, will crush your head, you'll bruise his heel. It's the entire Bible. If we understand that, then everything just goes like this. If we don't understand the Genesis 3:15 narrative, that it's a seed war, and this is why Jesus himself 2,000 years ago warns us it'll be like the days of Noah, because the Nephilim are there in the days of Noah. That's why the reason for the flood. Unless you understand the Genesis 3:15 narrative, unless a person understands the Nephilim and the mixing of the seed, the Genesis 3:15 narrative, you're clueless. You have no idea what's going on. Plug that in, understand that it's a seed war, because Jesus himself says it. Your seed, your offspring will be at war with the offspring of the woman. Boom. And that's where we are. And hybrids are walking amongst us, and the seed war continues into modernity, into the present day. And here we are. And this is what's going on.
You said you believe hybrids are walking amongst us. Do you think
Absolutely.
that they've interbred with humans to a point where there is no difference physically, where you couldn't look at them and tell a difference?
I will tell you a story, and this is from Al Matthews. It's in our film, UFO Abductions. It's also in so it's in number one, and I recapitulate it in the fourth one. Okay, UFO. And you can watch all this by going to streaming.lamarzulli.net. So for $5, you can download it and watch it. I mean, you got to do your homework. Nothing is free. When you went in this, let me talk to your audience. When you guys went into Starbucks today, and you said, I think I deserve a free coffee because, I just do. Did you get a free coffee? No, you didn't. And this is cheaper than a cup of coffee at Starbucks. So I don't want to hear about it. Okay.
Yeah.
So the bottom line is this. Al Matthews is a lifelong abductee, was a lifelong abductee. He's also a professional mover. So he's in a place in Canada, and this woman comes in, and she's got a shipping container from Kuwait, I think. And she meets Al, pretty gal, according to Al, well-dressed, pretty gal. But she's got these really dark glasses covering her eyes. And Al thinks, well, maybe she's got like an eye problem, sensitive to the light. So he doesn't say anything. So they're on a freight elevator going up to look at her shipping container and all that's in it, so Al can kind of strategize how they're going to move things. So it's just the two of them, Diane and Al Matthews. And the woman leans over and goes, "They're listening, Al." Now, he's never met this woman before. And Al goes, "Who's listening?" And she says, "The Greys. I know you've been taken, and we were supposed to meet on the ship." Al gives this woman his phone number. And in the film, I go, mistake number one. And she hounds him for weeks. She wants to have sex with him. She tells him this on the phone. So one day he goes up there because the woman is at a friend's house, her friend's house, not Al. So Al goes up there, and these two gals are drinking wine out of these really big goblets. And as they're drinking, Al is across from her, and there's a fly that lands in the wine glass on the rim. And Al goes, "Oh, I'll get it." And she goes, No, I got it." And she doesn't grab the fly. She takes her finger like this, and the fly sticks to her finger. Then she holds it up, and she goes from about 6 inches away. She doesn't eat it. She sucks it in from about 6 inches away.
Whoa.
Yeah, I know. And she takes off the glasses, and she comes down, goes over to Al. She sits on his lap, so they're face to face. And at this point, I stop the interview, and I go, Al, you've got a girlfriend. Is this normal behavior for you?" And he goes, "No, because it's not." And what you're looking at is what we call UFO brain fog. It's a term I coined a number of years ago. Because when you're around these entities, and I've been around, just so you get it, I've been around demon-possessed people, and when you go up to them, unless you're walking the walk and you know what you're dealing with, you don't remember your name. You become, because you hit this thing and there's an aura, there's like a field, a force field around someone who's demon possessed. And if you get there and you're not, and you don't know what you're dealing with, it's like you have trouble remembering your name. It's UFO brain fog. And that's what Al is. He's got, she's lifting up his shirt and rubbing his chest and going, "My, you're well preserved." And at this point, she goes to kiss him and he pushes her away. Remember, she's taking the glasses off. He pushes her away, and the eyes go like this. They go cat's eyes. They go cat's eyes and yellow. And she lets out the most evil laugh you've ever heard. And Al goes running out of there. And he goes to Gordy Tongs, friend of mine, and Gordy Skypes me. And we basically talk Al off the ledge. 2 weeks later, he becomes a Christian. All the abductions have stopped. And I actually interviewed him a couple of days ago on my show. And it's always good to hear from Al. And Al appears in our films. So that's what you're dealing with. Hybrids are walking amongst us now, and you can't tell who they are. You can't tell.
You have also done a re-examination of the events surrounding Roswell. You showed us some of the evidence that you collected earlier in this interview. For the audience that may not be familiar with your investigation, could you tell us a little bit about your findings?
Well, we went out to the debris field in Roswell, and this film is part of the 10-box DVD set. And we were with Chuck Sikowski and Frank Kimbler. They had metal detectors. So by the way, when we were out there filming, the cameras, Sony S4s, S3s, the batteries were 100%. We started filming just like that. The batteries drained down to nothing. And I've seen this before at other sites. So Frank Kimbler's out there, and Frank with his metal detector. And Frank goes, "Hey guys, I got a hit." That's Frank right there. So we go running over, and there's a hit. So he takes a little garden spade, and he's going down about 6 to 8 inches, and he discovers the metal. And this is what it looks like. This is the metal after we washed it off, and it's in the palm of my hand.
Yeah.
And I was able to they gave me a piece. Thank you, Chuck Sikowski. That's a piece of the metal from the Roswell debris field.
Yeah.
We went to a scanning electron microscope and we looked at it under an SEM, and it's right between two known aluminum alloys. It doesn't match. So we're in the process of trying to do an isotopic ratio to see what the isotopic ratio is. The problem is I only have this piece, and I don't really want to give it up. So Frank's got like a half a dozen or a dozen, not a half, a dozen pieces. So we're trying to maybe get a piece from Frank, because he's been out to the debris field at least 20 times, maybe more, maybe 30 times. So he's got probably about 15 to 20 pieces. And so, if we can get a piece, we'll do the testing. If the isotopic ratios don't match anything that's on this planet, then guess what, folks? It's not a weather balloon. But we've been saying that for decades. So there you go.
Yeah. You've also investigated crop circles a bit. Talk a little bit about your findings surrounding this. What do you think is the mechanics of this?
Well, in our film, again, this is the 10-box DVD set. There's there's 10 films here. Close Encounters of the First, Second, Third Kind, Fourth Kind, Fifth Kind. There's a film on cattle mutilations, crop circles, abductions, 2 films on Roswell. Finally, What is the Truth? And the late Nick Pope, Nick just passed away a few days ago. Nick appears in the film along with George Norrie and others. So it's on both sides of the aisle, extraterrestrial versus interdimensional. We give everybody a fair shake. So in the crop circle film, we show what I think is real. There's 2 orbs over a field, and they're circling like this. Okay? They're circling like this. And as they're circling over the field, you see the crop circle form right underneath them. So that might be the mechanics of it. But in our film, we focused on a crop circle that was in Ohio. And it was the second largest crop circle in America. very, very large. And it was in a field of corn that was 8 feet tall. So you can't make a crop circle. You can't hoax that. You can't sit there with a string and go, okay, let's make the circle. How do you even do that? And the corn was bent. It wasn't broken. It was bent. And it was laid in like this. It was woven. We show all this in the film. And that's why we went with that, because this is it. It's in a field of corn that's 8 feet tall. And you can't sit there with a string and a stalk stomper and tramp the thing down. You just can't do it. And that's why we went with it. It's truly profound. And this happened in a place called Chillicothe, right across from what we call the Nephilim Mounds,
Mm-hmm.
right? And about 30 days later, thereabouts, give or take 5 to 10 days, we held the first Nephilim conference in Ohio, giving the biblical answer to what these mounds were. I'm in contact with a gentleman who's native, and I asked him yesterday. I said, "Did the Shawnee build this?" He just laughed at me. He just said, "We had nothing to do with this." So that'll be in the new film coming out, hopefully in the next month or two. So we'll see what happens.
Do you think that everyone's experience with non-human intelligences is the same kind of entity, are demonics? We have people that claim to have very positive experiences.
Chris
They're told
Bledsoe.
about, like Chris Bledsoe, perfect example. Do you think that that's a deception occurring there, or is there duality? Are there benevolent or angelic beings?
Well, there are, but the angelic beings, first of all, like what is it? Is it Dan Barber, the helicopter pilot? I know his last name is Barber. I thought it was Dan, but I could be wrong. But this female entity came into him. Mistake number one. Chris Bledsoe, the lady, mistake number two. I'd have 2 films on Fatima. That was a UFO event. How do I know that? This is a picture from the king's royal photographer, Joshua Benoliel. So even though the Republic was there in 1917, the former king's photographer, Joshua Benoliel, was sent out to Fatima, and he took 12 pictures, glass plates. And I want to thank Francisco Carrera, our guide in Portugal, and of course, Jose Machado, who was a professor of semiotics who had access to those glass plates at the Fatima Sanctuary. You tell me what we're looking at. That's a disc, right, right over the apparition site.
Mm-hmm.
Look at all the people. It's a disc-like object.
Yeah.
And in our film on Fatima, we ask them, we go, is this a smudge? No. Is it a scrape on the glass? It's a glass plate. No. Whatever this is intrinsic. It's in the photograph. So, we broke that story. Nobody else knows about that. And I've been on with, Catholics who want to believe that Fatima was Mary of the Bible. And I just tell them, no, it wasn't. It was a lady that when it appeared to the children, Lucia, Francisco, and Jacinta, 10, 9, and 7, respectively, that where do you come from? I come from the sky. Didn't say heaven. That's in the handwritten documentation from Father Fiera. This entity was wearing a skirt that fell right below the knees. So you're trying to tell me that Mary of the Bible is going to show up in a skirt like that? No stinking way. It was a UFO event, but it's been dressed up, and the entire narrative has been managed. And Fatima is big business. Millions and millions of people go there every single year, and it's big business. So they're not going to mess with that, and I get that. And Lucia and all these the secret and all this nonsense, in my opinion, with all due respect, it's just nonsense. We have the biblical prophetic narrative, which tells us in great, very succinctly what's going to happen. And Mary of the Bible, with all due respect to Mary of the Bible, I don't believe she was assumed to heaven, number one. I do not believe she was sinless, number two. She's in need of a savior. And number three, Jesus had brothers and sisters. So the Catholic Church, with all due respect, they don't believe that Mary was a
Mm.
perpetual virgin, that she ascended to heaven. Mary is she's the God bearer. I get that. I have great respect for Mary as the God bearer. You know, blessed art thou amongst women. I totally get it. That's really cool. That's amazing. But you're at the cross, the sword pierces your heart because you look at your son and you know he's fully God and fully man, and you don't understand what's going on because nobody understands the cross. The dragon doesn't get it because of the drag. How do you kill God? You can't kill God, right? But they kill God. And then he goes down, the spirit goes down to Tartarus, preaches to the fallen angels, no jailbreak, not getting out. The body lays in the tomb for 3 days. This is God's calling card, the Shroud of Turin. 1898, Secunda Pia takes the first picture in thousands of years because the carbon-14 dated has been proven to be fraudulent. It was a patch job. They took one sample from the edge where it was rewoven. So the whole carbon-14 dating was skewed. Look at that. Look at the scourge marks.
Yeah.
Look
Huh.
at that. I mean, the scourging is incredibly brutal. Incredibly brutal. Look at the helmet of thorns. Look at
Mhm.
the nails, not in the palms, comes out the back of the wrist, right here. So it comes out like this. It's in the palm. The nail comes through the palm, but comes out here. But if you put it in the palm, it'll just tear and that's it. So isn't it interesting that the shroud gives us forensic evidence? Here's the wound in the side right there. Oop,
Mhm.
there's the wound on the side, the blood. So this is forensic evidence of the resurrection because that's what happened. I call it God's calling card. So, we're looking at something that's very, very complex. And there's this war that's been going on for thousands of millennia. And this is why the biblical prophetic narrative, this is what I hold to. So, third secret of Fatima, not interested. I'm not interested in any secret of anything because that's not how it works. The Bible, the biblical prophetic narrative, gives us prophecy, and prophecy has to be 100% accurate, and it is. Just in Yeshua or Jesus's crucifixion, there's all these prophecies which converge in a 24-hour period, which is astronomically the odds of that happening to one man. It's through the roof. I can't put my head around it. 10 to the 17th, power, a gazillion zeros after this thing. And so that's the thing. I mean, just, his death is with the sinners, but his burial with the rich man. Well, how do you figure that out? Jesus is crucified between two thieves, but he's buried in a rich man's tomb. I mean, they pierced my hands and feet, written hundreds of years before the crucifixion. They divide my garments among themselves. The Roman soldiers are throwing dice for his clothes. And by the way, unlike Christian art that we see, he's hanging on the cross. He's completely naked. There is
Mm.
no loincloth. He's 100% naked. He bears our shame. He bears the shame of humanity. I mean, so the prophecies that are there are accurate and fulfilled. So, how much more of the prophecies yet to come? I don't need an entity, a lady, who doesn't even say she's from heaven. I'm from the sky. That's what she said. So, Chris Bledsoe, I've asked him on my show. I got no response. And
Mm.
I'd love to sit down and talk with him and Dan Barber because they've taken something into them that they don't need. And here's something to think about. There was a woman that I interviewed years ago. I actually led her to the Lord. And I won't mention the name, but she was an experiencer. Voice to skull, she would be contacted, voice to skull, come on out, take pictures of us. She showed me pictures of the grays, of the craft. And I told her, I said, well, and she said, I have a very special mission. I said, yeah, your mission is this. They're going to kill you. That's your mission because they will. She was down to like 95 pounds. She was wasting away. And she
Mm.
came to the Lord and all the stuff, she just renounced it. And unfortunately, there was a gentleman who does a lot of harm, in my opinion, to people like myself. She turned this woman against me and said, "Well, there's no physicality to your experience. It's all delusion. It's all demonic delusion." which does a great disservice to people like Karen Wilkinson, Al Matthews, Emil
Hmm.
Jarrett. So let me get this straight. It's all demonic delusion. What's Emil doing with an implant in his leg? That's in our Watchers film. We're the only Christian team that's ever taken an implant out of anyone. And this is hard research. Where it's formerly Seal Lab. That's what it was called before it changed hands. We're looking at the implant under scanning electron microscope. We looked at the four-finger handprint from an abductee's house that fluoresces. You can't make this stuff up. That's hard science. It's in our Watchers films. So it's like, it gets annoying after a while because some of these people, these naysayers, they've never gone anywhere. We've got, all these people that we've rescued, and that's fine. See, I don't talk against them, but they'll try to disparage my work. Well, how many implants have you taken out? How many abductees have you talked to where the breeding program, where the women were impregnated? Were impregnated by these entities, and in the third month, they are re-abducted and the fetus is taken from them. It's Genesis 3:15. There's a breeding program going on. There's a mingling of the seed. Daniel 2:43 tells us that their seed will mingle with the seed of men, but they will not cleave to them. Well, who are they? See, it's literal. It's absolutely literal. And this is exactly what's going on right now in modernity.
Earlier, you mentioned these beings' ability to manipulate time and space,
Yes,
take
yes.
over our perception. Wouldn't this be considered an infringement on our free will? It seems like they can take over our perception to a point to where they can have us see and experience whatever they want us to experience.
This is where it gets tricky.
Mm-hmm.
It gets tricky. Someone like Karen was abducted when she was 5 years old. Emil, same thing. They didn't ask for this. They didn't ask to be taken.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't. Al Matthews, same thing. And they all talk. It's all textbook. They're taken against their will. The grays are there. Sperm is taken from the men. Ovum is taken from the women. The women find themselves pregnant. I mean, Angela in our film in the 10-box DVD set, number 4 on abductions, Angela is there and she goes, when I went in, there was nothing there. But 2 weeks earlier, we saw the heartbeat. We know I knew I was pregnant. And what happened was she was awakened at 2 o'clock in the morning and she's thinking there's a UFO outside her house. And she's thinking to herself, what are you doing here? What is this thing doing here? Voice to skull, we're here for you. Next thing you know, she's floating into the ship and they took the baby. They took, there's a high, people have a hard time with this, but their seed will mingle with the seed of men, but they will not cleave to them. The word cleave is what we get for marriage. There is no marriage. They just take. They just take, just like the days of Noah. And this is why, unless a person understands what differentiates the days of Noah, when we get to all this stuff, we have no place to put it. But once we plug in Genesis 3:15, the ongoing seed war, that hybrids are walking amongst us. The late Chuck Missler used to say, yeah, Satan's outnumbered 2-1. He's building an army. That's what he used to say. So all this is real. It's happening. And it is the coming great deception. And you remember the other side of the aisle, the ancient astronaut theorists, the people that you watch on the History Channel, Ancient Aliens and everybody else, they believe that we were created by them,
Right.
panspermia, that we were created by an advanced race of extraterrestrials. But in my opinion, we weren't. We were created by a loving God. But this push and pull, remember, why would Jesus say something like, even the elect would be deceived if that were possible? So, we're in unprecedented times. We are. And it's coming down. Congress is constantly talking about it. Scientists go missing. That's not a good thing. Generals go missing. It's not a good thing. So there's this push and pull with the phenomena.
As far as recent events, I'd love to get your thoughts as to where we're at right now. We talked about UFO disclosure. We recently had the fire hose of horrible dark information with the Epstein files that's coming out. This manufactured holy war that's happening. Many believe that it is biblical prophecy manifesting, that we're in the end times. Would you agree with that?
Well, we're definitely in the end times. How do I know this? Because Israel was gathered back into its homeland. That starts the prophetic clock. Late Hal Lindsey, or Hal, not late, but Hal Lindsey talked about this decades ago. And so people who say, well, these really aren't the real Jews, blah, 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 blah. Read Amos 9, Old Testament prophet, sitting there for thousands of years. And Amos 9, 14 and 15 states this: I will bring back the captives of my people Israel. Check. They will build the waste cities and inhabit them. Check. They will plant vineyards and drink the wine from them. Check. They will also plant gardens and eat the fruit from them. Check. Here's the kicker: I will plant them in their land, and never again will they be plucked up out of a land I have given them. I got this next part from Rabbi Jason Sobel. On May 14th, 1948, because all the synagogues read from the same passage of the Tanakh, the Torah, and everything else. There's always a Torah reading, but there's also another passage, and this came from Amos. May 14th, 1948, the passage I just quoted was being read in every single synagogue. And May 14th, 1948 is when Israel declares its statehood. So we're it. We are in the last of the last days. Israel is back in the homeland. And what people need to understand is that for the last 40 whatever years since the Ayatollahs took over Iran, that they have declared death to America and death to Israel. And they do it every single week. They hate what we stand for. They hate the God of Christianity. They do. And they hate the Jews. I mean, it makes no sense at all, absolutely no sense for this. There's a phrase I came up with years ago. The current political landscape is in direct correlation to supernatural events that happened in some cases millennia ago. So in America, and you can disagree all you want, but the reason why we enjoy the freedoms that we do is because we hold to a Judeo-Christian worldview where our freedoms come from where? God, not the state. It's a huge difference because everything up to that point, you had no liberty. You were a serf. Go back to Beethoven's day. What was it, 220 years ago? Beethoven's writing the Pathétique. There's royalty, and then there's everybody else. And that's how it was. That's how it was. And that's why in America, no royal titles is a reason for that. No, we're not doing this royalty nonsense. It's over. All men are created equal. Did we live up to that? Absolutely not. We had slavery and we had genocide with the First Nation people. That's not good. You can tap dance around that till the cows come home. It sucks. But nevertheless, that's what happened. But because for the first time in history, we had liberty, guess what happened because of that? The entire modern world as we know it came from where? Came from where? The Judeo-Christian worldview. Who invented the elevator? Who invented the skyscraper? Who invented the typewriter? Who invented the airplane? And why? How was the airplane invented? Because the Wright brothers had liberty for the first time. They could have their little goofy bicycle shop, but on the weekends they're messing around with an airplane. And then Kitty Hawk and the thing flies. The rest is history. The entire modern world, most of it, comes from the Judeo-Christian worldview. End of story. And that is based on supernatural events. What are the supernatural events? The God-man, Jesus of Nazareth, rising from the dead. Muslims do not believe that Jesus hung on the cross, or that he was the Son of God, or that he rose up from the dead. So they have a different set of supernatural events. They believe that Muhammad was the last prophet, and that's it. And that's what I just got a flash on my screen. This happens every now and then. Yeah, you're doing something. Thank you so much. Get a job. But they believe in that, and that those supernatural events of the prophet Muhammad, and notice I'm not talking in a negative way. I'm just saying they believe in the supernatural events which created the Quran. They believe in a different set of supernatural events, which has, in fact, colored the body politic. What do I mean by that? Well, the mullahs, the ayatollahs, death to America, death to Israel. Why is that even there? Why are we talking? Why are they making nukes so they can nuke Tel Aviv? End of story. Why is Hezbollah, even after the ceasefire, what, a year or two ago, why are they up there bombing Hezbollah? Because they rebuilt all the tunnels. All they care about is wiping off Israel off the map, and that ain't going to happen. I will plant them in their land, and never again will they be plucked up out of the land I have given them, says the Lord your God. This is why we're in the last days. Isaiah 17, the destruction of Damascus could be happening. We might be looking at the formation of the Ezekiel 37-38 war, which has never been fulfilled. We might be looking at Jeremiah 49, the destruction of Elam. That's the west coast of what is now Iran. So it's very complex, and I just want to say something, that we're never going to have peace on this planet. It's just what we see is exactly what Jesus warns us of. Wars and rumors of wars, famines, pestilence, earthquakes in diverse places, troublesome times. This is where we are. And this war, I mean, let me put it to you this way. 2 weeks ago, Vladimir Putin stood up and started talking about nukes being used again. He's saber rattling with nukes. Why is this happening? The Iranians may have detonated underground a nuke because it was a massive earthquake right where the underground facility is. I mean, what are we looking at here? What are we looking at? And in my opinion, and this is all in the book, Rungs of Disclosure, this is when they show up. And it's on their terms, not ours. They will show up after a nuclear event happens on this planet. It's not, we can talk about this till the cows come home, but they will show up when they want to show up. And they will show up in force, in mass, when we have a nuclear event. If your people, if you have not seen the Super Bowl ad from 2024, so it's a while back, right? 2024. Is it 24 or 25? I think it's 24. I'm pretty sure it's 24. Okay. And the Super Bowl ad, it says, hello down there. Hello down there. You can go to YouTube, punch in the search engine or, information, whatever. Hello down there, Super Bowl ad. It will come up. This is predictive programming because it's a global event and UFOs are appearing over all the cities of the world. In a little diner in New Mexico, New York City, in Paris, France, and in somewhere over in Japan. So the filmmaker of this commercial, it's 1 minute and 30 seconds. You don't even know what it's advertising for. A website makes it real, Squarespace. Really? We're talking about this stuff? Who cares? I don't even know what you're advertising. And so this, in my opinion, when you see that, that's predictive programming. They are signaling, telegraphing that when they show up, it will be a global event. And the woman who's holding her cell phone at the beginning of the commercial, she's like this. And you read, Congress is talking about, UFOs, blah, blah, blah. She doesn't like that. So she scrolls out of that, and there's a cat clawing a roll of toilet paper. Now she's all happy. Meanwhile, directly above her, mile-wide craft in Manhattan. So if you're folks, if you have not seen this, you need to go watch that. It's predictive programming. And now Congress is just rolling this stuff out. J.D. Vance, I'm going to go to Area 51. So it's happening.
There is a lot happening. We live in very interesting times. LA, I know that you have a stop at an hour, so I'm not going to keep you much longer. Before I let you go, remind the audience the best way to get access to all your films and books.
LAMarzulli.com, LAMarzulli.com. It's all there. You can go and watch our films for $5 a pop. Streaming.lamarzulli.net. And we have a new book. It's called The Waiting Room. It's a novel, my first novel in 20 years. It's it's got 29 reviews. They're all 5-star on Amazon. Need I say more? And then, of course, Rungs of Disclosure. We are up to rung number 27, 26, 27. So, yeah, all this stuff is happening in real time. And LAMarzulli.com. Do your homework, folks. we've had an hour and it's been good, but you need to do your homework because it's, we spent a lot of time at the deep end of the pool, but now you need to, fill it out.
Yeah. Ellie, thank you so much. Definitely have to do this again. Until
Absolutely.
next time, everyone, have a wonderful evening. We'll talk again tomorrow. Hello, friends. I am so excited to tell you about Independent Media Token. Independent Media Token is a brand new way to show your support for independent media without having to donate a dime. Independent Media Token is a cryptocurrency on the Solana blockchain designed to generate funds to promote and foster the growth of independent content creators, allowing them to engage in their art without having to worry about being demonetized. Through a network of media partners, of which you yourself can become a part of, Independent Media Token's goal is to ensure the powers that be can never cut off all of our areas of funding and censor the only free voices left in the world. Join the movement today. You can pick up Independent Media Token using Phantom Wallet or the Solana wallet of your choice, where you can easily swap your Solana for IMT. Grab some IMT today and remember to always know your team. To learn more, visit independentmediatoken.com or use the link right in the description. Are you and your family prepared for an emergency? Maybe the fake alien invasion? Now is the time to prepare yourself and your family for any event. Check out Prep Starts Now. Their mission is to provide high-quality preparedness products that empower individuals and families to be ready for any situation. They're committed to delivering reliable, trusted gear to ensure your safety, security, and peace of mind in times of need. Their product selection is carefully curated to provide you with the essential gear you need to stay prepared. From emergency kits to tactical tools, every item is chosen for its reliability and practicality. Prep Starts Now understands the importance of family, and their goal is to equip you with everything you need to build a solid plan for your family's preparedness. In today's ever-changing world, being prepared is more important than ever, and Prep Starts Now is here to help you and your family stay ready with quality products and practical guidance. Use the link in the description and get 15% off your order. Watch Doors of Perception now on Amazon Prime. We live in an incredible age of information. More and more, we're discovering that we've been lied to and misled about much of our human history. Cory Hughes is providing profound revelations about World War I, World War II, the JFK assassination, Martin Luther King's assassination, and much, much more on his new Substack, Bloody History. Subscribe now for as little as $5 monthly. Just click that link right in the description to get started now and learn about our true history. Hello, friends. If you're looking to start your therapeutic microdosing journey, but don't know where to start, especially when looking for the highest quality ingredients, including nootropics, and what you'd expect from a true microdose capsule, check out our friends at Brainsupreme. They offer the absolute highest quality ingredients so you can start your microdosing journey knowing that you're getting top-notch ingredients. To find out more, visit their website using that link right in the description, and you can get 15% off your entire order. Watch Doors of Perception now on Amazon Prime. Check out the incredible artwork of Johnny Larson, featured on the cover of the Forbidden documentary, and the book A Warning from History by Cory Hughes. Visit Johnny's Patreon, patreon.com/Johnny Larson, or click the link in the description and help support Johnny's work.